Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you a little bit of a troubleshooting technique that you can use to diagnose your machine in terms of why you've been getting blue screens or why your machine has been crashing. All of a sudden, maybe you just did a upgrade in memory or something like that. Like I just upgraded my memory, I just doubled my memory, and I suspected that maybe that was an issue because I started getting these blue screens that I seem to remember. It seemed like it was happening very, very recently. So naturally, my brain was tying the hardware change to the crashing. It seemed to make sense, but that might have been a little bit of confirmation bias. But that's why, you know, when you're doing analysis, you want to step outside of your feelings and stick to the facts. You want to stick to data. So what I did is you can go to, first of all, you want to see what is happening that's causing your machine to have a blue screen. You might just get a blue screen and it crashes and you don't all you know is you had a blue screen. What was the problem? The computer is typically going to have something recorded that's indicating something was wrong. Like the computer will be aware of something going wrong which led to the crash. The thing is, you need to get that information so you can do your troubleshooting. So one of the key ways to do that is look at Event Viewer. If there's something really, really wrong with your system, it's going to be in your system logs, which you can find in Event Viewer. So I went to System, and what I did is, and what you typically want to do is, as soon as your system blue screens or crashes, a key thing to save you some time is take note of the time at which it crashes. The second it happens, look at your clock, take note of what the time is. Because depending how long it takes to freeze and do the crash dump or whatever, and then rebooting, time goes by, then you're in this log and it has all these different things. You want to be able to focus on the exact moment when the system first started crashing or detected a serious problem. So what I did is I logged in, I went to Event Viewer, I went to System, and I looked for anything pretty looking serious. I saw a bunch of warning. There's WHEA-Logger, which says a corrected hardware error has occurred, reported by component processor core, unknown error source, internal parity error. The details are below. So what I wanted to do, seeing that this is what seemed to have happened just before the crash, I want to see, when did this start happening, right? When it's like you're doing an investigation, right? You're a detective, you're trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. So you want to get a timeline. When did it start happening? And what event occurred just before that time? So I went through and I quickly scrolled down and looked, and I saw it was happening for a while. I wanted to be more definitive. So what you can do is you can filter your log. So you click on the right here, it says filter current log in Event Viewer. And to get Event Viewer, just click on the start button and type event. It'll come up, right? You'll see Event Viewer, select it, you're here. Then go to Windows Logs, click on System. That's how you get here. And then filter current log. I mean, first you got to identify the error, right? So I saw this error. I'm like, okay, I want to know the history on this error. So I went in here. I just did, critical error, whatever. Probably redundant because it tells you specifically that the error level was warning. But you want to be very careful in being too restrictive in your searches. Because just because the error that you see right now is at a warning level, that doesn't mean that there might not be other errors that are related to the problem that might be at different error levels. So if you only do specifically warning, you might be missing some of those things. So I did critical, warning, error level. These are all fairly substantial error levels that I want to take a look at. Event source, I put in the WHEA, as I see in the error message itself. And if you want, you can put some keywords. I chose not to do keywords. From that, I get this, which is a list of just the error that I'm concerned with. So now I can scroll to the bottom, sorted by date and time, to see when this error first occurred. So all of a sudden, just 2 months ago, in the evening, this error started popping up for the first time and has been consistently happening for the last couple months. Sometimes it leads to a blue screen crash, other times not so much. Okay, so we have a timeline. This is when it started happening. Now we need to investigate what occurred on April 2nd, 2021, around this time. Potentially even before this time, because it might have been something that was done, something was installed or changed, and then it took a while before the effect was known. or the effect of the change was represented. So what we do next, you go into File Explorer and you can do a search. So what I chose to do is I wanted to see if I had installed any software. So, I mean, do what makes sense for you and how you operate with your computer. I knew that the potential reason for this issue was either failing hardware, as my computer is super powerful, super awesome, but it's also super old. I built it with top quality components and I really got my money's worth. I think it's going on 10 years and yet powerful enough today to support the Oculus, which is very, very resource intensive. Some of the games I can't play. Some of the top games that are very, very intensive I can't play. But overall, I have, I would say very good experience with the Oculus, which again is very, very power hungry. So that's to say a lot about the system. But it's old, so things might be failing. So that's something. But also changes to software. So typically, if I do changes to software, it's going to be I'm downloading something. I'm going to download some executable and I'm going to install it. So I said, let me check my downloads folder for anything that was added to that folder on that date. Of course, if you always clean your downloads folder, this doesn't work for you. But like I said, customize it to your workflow. For me, this works. So in the downloads folder on the date in question, what do we see here? apowermirror.setup.gg.exe. What do you know? Interesting coincidence that on the same day that this error started happening, this application was downloaded and installed. So now we can go to Control Panel, we can go to Programs, Programs and Features. And there we see that program in question. And we can see at that time I was looking to work on a screen sharing setup to do some more tutorials for you guys. Subscribe for more tutorials, click on the like button, subscribe, and welcome aboard. Anyway, so we can see I tried quite a bit of different programs. So we can even suspect these programs as well. Just because they were installed a few days before doesn't mean that they're not potentially the culprit. You can see my Bloomberg terminal, but that's actually too far away. So what I would do is I would just start with the one that was installed on the date in question. Go ahead and remove that, uninstalled. And I'm just gonna take a chance and go and remove these other ones as well. Get rid of that. These are all applications added around the time that the problem started. So let's get them all out. Get it out. Uninstall. Goodbye. What's the song I'm thinking of? Na 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 na. Hey. Goodbye. All right, so here's the final one, mirroring 360. Getting that out of there. Na 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 na. Hey, goodbye. And there you have it. So now we don't know whether this solved the problem or not because this issue is intermittent. So what we need to do is just continue using the computer and assume we fixed it. Now, to be really thorough, I would highly advise you reboot your machine. You've uninstalled these applications. You're trusting that they did the removal process properly, but ideally, I would like a fresh boot after you've uninstalled these applications. Then just use your computer as normal and see if it still happens. If it doesn't happen anymore, then good chance you've solved the problem. If it does, then maybe there's something else. You need to continue investigating, continue your detective investigation. So one other data point for you to consider in doing your analysis of like, did you fix it? Did you not fix it? And going forward, look at the frequency that this issue was happening. So if it's happening every day and 3 days goes by and it doesn't happen, and that gap only happens right after you did the uninstall. So you had 2 months of every single day it happens once or twice. And then the day you uninstall these applications, you get 3 straight days of it not happening. Good chance, high probability you fixed the problem. So I want to look at the previous frequency of it rather than just saying, oh, it doesn't happen anymore, so I must have fixed it. What if it only happens once every couple weeks? Then that means a couple weeks will go by and you don't see the problem and you're like, oh, it's fixed. and then the computer crashes again, and then because in your mind you already fixed it, you don't even think twice about it and you just restart your machine like, whatever. So make an assessment of the previous frequency of occurrence. Use that as a baseline in terms of how am I going to determine whether I've really fixed this problem or not, and make it based on a drastic departure from the previous patterns. If it was once a day, then 3 days going by, a week going by and not happening, that's a big indicator. If it was once a week, then I would say like 3 weeks to a month of it not happening, then that would be like a clear indicator. So depending on how frequent it was, put an aggressive timeline of no occurrences. And once that timeline has passed, then you can feel pretty safe to say that you've resolved the issue, especially if this is something that's been happening for a long time. So you have a lot of data to look at. I mean, it's been 2 months and it's been a consistent pattern, and the pattern broke drastically after you did the uninstall. So clearly whatever you did is highly likely to have somehow affected the problem, which means either it is the problem or it's closely related to it. This is Carl Speaks Wall Street. If this video helped you out, click on that like button, subscribe, and welcome to the channel. Have a great weekend, everyone. And until next time, thank you for watching.